Hi there, the Kindle Voyage used to be the best Kindle you could buy on Amazon, and for the longest time it was the top tier model. And to this day I get plenty of comments from people around the world who love their Kindle Voyage and prefer this over any other Kindle out there right now. And the funny thing is, you can no longer buy this device brand new. It is only available used because Amazon stopped making it. Now, even though the Kindle Voyage is a one-hit wonder without any successor, I recently made the realization that the Kindle Paperwhite is basically the same thing as the Kindle Voyage, but what they did is they took all the outdated features of the Voyage and updated it in the Paperwhite, and they're very, very comparable. Now, what's weird is I think the Voyage still has a few unique features that make it better than today's Kindle Paperwhite, and that's what today's video is all about. We're gonna do a comparison between these two devices, discuss the similarities and the differences, especially if you're in the market for a new Kindle right now and you're open to getting something used, maybe you're on a budget, the Kindle Voyage might still be a really great option for you. The first thing I want to talk about is the design of both these devices. Right away, when you put them side by side, you can see they have a very similar shape. They're both rectangular with a flush glass display. They even have very similar bezels. The Kindle Paperwhite does have a bit thinner of a bezel, but they're still very, very similar. When you flip these devices over though, we begin to see the differences. The Paperwhite has more of a rubbery, plasticky material on the back of the device. I'm not the biggest fan of this. It does get fingerprints quite easily, and I also don't like where the power button is located on the bottom of the device. It's a very awkward position to turn the device on and off. The one thing I do like about the Kindle Paperwhite is it comes with USB-C. Because it's more of a modern device, they do have USB-C built into that, whereas the Voyage has micro USB. Now, putting the micro USB aside, I actually prefer the back of the Kindle Voyage much more than the Kindle Paperwhite. It's made of this magnesium material. It's not quite plasticky, but it's also not quite metal either. It's a kind of an in-between. It feels much more durable than the Kindle Paperwhite, and I love the design they use. I don't know why Amazon went away from this design that they have on the Voyage. It just looks so much more sleek and futuristic. I really love it. My favorite thing though is the power button placement. It's exactly where it should be. It's a circular button on the back of the device, very easy to reach when you're holding the device in your hands. Now, in terms of other design elements that are worth mentioning, the Kindle Voyage does have a built-in ambient light sensor, which is really nice for automatically adjusting the screen brightness. The Kindle Paperwhite also has that, but you have to get the signature edition, which is a lot more expensive, and I personally don't think it's worth paying extra money for the features you get on the signature model. The one area where I really think the Kindle Voyage stands out compared to the Kindle Paperwhite are these page turn haptics. On the bezel of the Kindle Voyage, they're slightly bigger because they have to hold these page turn haptics. They're not quite page turn buttons. You can't physically push these in, but when you tap on them, you feel a vibration in the device letting you know the page has turned. This is actually really nice for a couple reasons. One, you don't have to use a touchscreen anymore to turn pages. You have these sensors on either side of the device, which is super nice. And secondly, the bezels are slightly bigger, whereas on the Kindle Paperwhite, the bezels are a bit too thin to hold in your hand. I like having bigger bezels that are around this size because I can comfortably hold my fingers on them without accidentally touching the screen. Let me also talk about the display of both these devices. The Kindle Voyage definitely has a bit of an outdated display, which is one of the main reasons why I would not recommend this device. It was definitely the first of its kind though. It was the first device to have a 300 ppi resolution on a Kindle, which is a really amazing thing because every Kindle now, besides the basic model, has 300 ppi. That's a huge selling point for all the Kindles. The one thing this Kindle does not have though is warm light temperature control. The Kindle Paperwhite does have that, and I think that's also kind of almost like a must-have. If you read at night and you don't want to have a blue light display, having a little bit of orange really makes a big difference in comfortable reading experience. The Kindle Voyage also only has a 6-inch display versus the 6.8-inch display on the Kindle Paperwhite. That actually makes quite a big difference when you're reading. Having that larger screen will let you hold more text on the screen, which is very nice. And in today's world, having a larger screen does feel a bit more of something you expect on a device. The last thing that's really worth mentioning regarding the display on both these devices is the Paperwhite has 17 LEDs for brightness adjustment, whereas the Voyage only has 5 LEDs. Now, one thing I will say is I don't really see a difference with these number of LEDs that they advertise. The Kindle Oasis actually has more LEDs than the Kindle Paperwhite Paperwhite, and I put those devices side by side, and I saw no difference at all. Same thing happens with these two devices, so the number of LEDs I wouldn't say is much of a factor. Now, because the Kindle Paperwhite is a newer device, this device has a new e-ink cartridge display, which actually allows you to have cool things like page turn animations. And this is a great sign that the Paperwhite is way more future-proof than the Kindle Voyage. The Kindle Voyage is obviously old, they don't make it anymore, and the signs of that are starting to show. There's a very, very short lifespan ahead of this device because eventually it just will not be up to date anymore with these new features like page turn animations. Now, are these animations a must-have feature? Absolutely not. They definitely make it more fun to read on your Kindle, but I do see things like this are only going to happen more and more with future software updates where the newer devices will get them and the older devices will become more and more outdated. Now, to answer the question, do I feel the Kindle Voyage is better than the Kindle Paperwhite? I don't think so, but there are a few compelling reasons why you may still want to consider this device when making your decision. Those two reasons are really if you really want those page turn haptics. The Kindle Oasis is the only device out there besides the Kindle Voyage that has page turn buttons right now, and that device is way more expensive. The Voyage has these haptics and is still a relatively recent Kindle that you can buy used for a good price. And the second reason is the price. You can probably get a great deal on the Kindle Voyage used if you're on a budget. Now, with all that being said, it's also very important to understand the benefits of getting a Kindle Paperwhite. If you want a device that will be future-proof for many years ahead, and you want a device that has USB-C, a longer battery life, a crispier display with warm light temperature control, the Paperwhite is the obvious option there. Now, if you want to know more about the Voyage, I do have a full in-depth review of that device that I made before this Paperwhite even came out from last year. So check out that video, link on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.